This past week, I had the opportunity to go into a courtroom and speak. About 5 seconds before the judge was to walk in, I found out that my speech was supposed to be directed towards the judge. And I told the prosecuting attorney, I said, well, I did it with the direction towards the defendant. And he said, that's okay. And then I didn't hear exactly what was going on, but when the prosecuting attorney gave his presentation, then he wanted me to follow. I heard him making some pathetic appeal saying he didn't know, but she gave permission. And then at the end of that, I'd like to read to you what I said, only because it took place this week and it has a lot to do with our topic for today. I said, defendant, I still care about you, but you're going to have to do a lot to prove to me that you have changed. One way is that you need to quit listening to selfish people who are taking advantage of you. Many people are using you so that they can get what they want. People in the medical field, for example, tell you that you have mental issues so that they can make money off of your medications. After your visit to the dentist, the drugstore received a prescription for you consisting of 2 Tylenol pills and 5 Advil pills. Because the welfare system is willing to pay for it, the drugstore charged $28 for those 7 pills. And those of us who are willing to work have to pay the bill by having extra money taken out of our paychecks. Many people are taking advantage of you and laughing at you because by keeping you trapped in that system, they keep making a profit. They don't care about you. They just want more money. And it won't be any easier in prison. One deputy at the Mahoning County Jail told me that a few of the guards continue to supply drugs to the inmates to keep them hooked on drugs. Why? To use their words, for job security. They want to make sure there are always enough inmates for them to keep their jobs. They don't care about destroying the lives of others as long as they get what they want. Defendant, I am so sorry many selfish, greedy people have hurt you, but you're still responsible for your choices. When we hear stories like this, it moves us. We gravitate towards that quickly when we see how others have hurt us and offended us. I mean, it's easy for us to pick it out. We're all so sharp at detecting it in other people, but not so sharp when we see it in our own lives. And there's so many little ways. We mentioned a week or two ago that people do things either intentionally or ignorantly. Ignorant meaning they just didn't know what they're doing. For example, I was driving a car with 3 other men. We were pulling onto the expressway. I turned on my turn signal. I looked. The near lane was open, so I pulled in. My car was already going the speed limit, and I'm just being a good citizen and going the speed limit. All of a sudden, one guy in the car whose job, his trade was driving a truck said, Randy, you really need to move. That tractor trailer moved over for you, and you won't let him get back in, and he can't go forward. And I'm thinking, I didn't know. And of course, I'm halfway sweating, and sure enough, there's nothing like wall-to-wall steel outside my window, so I'm going forward and getting out of his way. I mean, we all do stuff which offends people. Most of the time, we don't know it. And that has everything to do with our message today, because God wants us to move beyond the ignorant level, not knowing that we are offending people, and move to that level of truly knowing how we can minister and care for other people. I grew up with the mindset as a child that I need to be the best That whatever I do, you need to win a championship, be as smart as you can, outdo others. I mean, even churches had things called church softball leagues. And who was rewarded? Only the winners. I mean, the mindset in life was, if you want to succeed, you have to beat out others. And that's not even biblical. The biblical perspective is grab the hands of as many people as you can and help them be successful. Help them be the best that they can possibly be. And that has been a very, very difficult thing for me to learn. In fact, I don't think I even had the door to crack open until I was in my 40s. So when I give you this message, I'm embarrassed because I'm teaching you what I'm learning now, and as perhaps most of you are way ahead of me on this subject matter. Our study for the last several weeks has been on how to be a team player. For me, it's been only one thing. I need to do my job and my part and just do the best I can. And that's it. But the message today goes way beyond that. It's looking with eyes open to see there are other people around me who are on my team. I need to help them. And what I finally learned after many decades is the better they serve, the better they work, the better my life is. Because it's a team effort, and we all benefit when we all improve. We've been looking at Nehemiah as our study book for this, primarily the first 5 chapters. And today we come to the last message in the 9-part series, and we cover the most important character quality, which is loving others. And I know that for those of us who are men, it's hard to use the word love because for many men, love equals romance. And that's not what the word means. I heard a guy just 2 or 3 weeks ago say those very words, talking about how team players need to, and then he paused. He said, I would say love, but I realize all you guys are men. So what I mean is care. So I've wrestled with using that word, and I got to thinking, if the greatest man who ever lived was Jesus, and he said the word love, then I'm just going to stick with that. But for guys who may think that the word means purely romance, then I'm saying that this love in a very simplistic way is caring about team players more than you do about yourself. That's all that the word means. Let's go to the first characteristic that we find in Nehemiah chapter 5 and verse 15. And this first aspect is that loving team players have a relationship with God. Verse 15 says at the end of it, but I, Nehemiah, did not do so because of the fear of God. And then you go down to verse 19. He finishes his prayer and his activities, and he says, remember me, O my God, for good, according to all that I have done for this people. And I take that to mean that he's trying to please the Lord. He wants to do what's right. One of the verses I made sure I put on here in my message was one that you've already quoted in an earlier part of the service. We love because he first loved us. It's true. It's impossible for you to care about anybody on your team. Your coworkers, your fellow church members, your family members, your fellow Americans, all the people on your team. You can't really can't care for them or have a love for them unless we first have a very, very, very close relationship with God. It must start there. There's no way a non-Christian can say, I love you, and mean it anywhere near the depth God intended. They may do the best they can, but they don't have any hope. God, who is love, does not live in their hearts. But even same for us as Christians, we need to have that close walk with God to understand His love and then pour that towards others. So the first aspect of a loving team player is having a right relationship with God. The next characteristic, which we all pick up on quickly and has a lot to do with my starting illustration, is that loving team players do not indulge in personal privilege. Well, let's find out what that means, that he did not indulge in personal privileges. Verse 14, moreover, from the day that I, Nehemiah, was appointed to be their governor in the land of Judah, from the 20th year to the 32nd year of King Artaxerxes, for 12 years, neither I nor my kinsmen have eaten the governor's food allowance. Now, you know how it's common for people to be hired by the government to go do a project. And their travel is paid for, their food is paid for. So why not go into a 5-star hotel? Why not eat the fanciest of the foods? I mean, our government bosses are paying us for it. Let's just indulge. And we see in this passage that Nehemiah was governor for 12 years, and he never took advantage of those freedoms. Are you aware that the Red Cross gets all the attention when it comes to disaster relief? And according to many who lead Southern Baptist disaster relief, they say that's fine with them. They don't want the credit. But the majority of the people involved with Red Cross, and that is those who are doing the hands-on work, are Southern Baptist. The first ones to show up, the last ones to leave. But someone did a research project several years ago to find out, where does our money really go? And they found out that the top of their staff goes to an area that has been destroyed, and when they set up camp, they often go to 5-star hotels. That's the emotional tug going on in this passage. How can Nehemiah say he's a team player if he's aloof from them and takes extra money for himself and sets himself higher? Why does the average person want to be the president of the United States? If they do, I know most normal people don't want that position, but for those who do want to, you know the reason why. It's the perks, the benefits, the reputation. Would everyone look at me? I made the accomplishment. And they know in order to get the position, they have to go out and advertise themselves. So what do they say? They say, if you vote for me, I will give you what you want. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. The whole idea is selfish. It's only what they want, and we can see that in other people. And Nehemiah is saying, I didn't do this. I didn't take advantage of all these free meals because I want to be one of you. I'm a team player. I love you and I care about you. One of the amazing presidents of the United States came from Northeast Ohio, James A. Garfield. He was a preacher. And he was speaking at the National Convention for his political party. He went there to say, you need to vote for so-and-so. And there was such a division among the political party that someone said, no, we're going to vote for you. And he ended up winning the ticket for his political party, and he didn't want the position to appoint. And when he did, he became very unselfish. He lived for the people. He cared for the people. So just for the record, there really are a few politicians out there who care about the people and want to do what's best for them. He makes a very good illustration. I know if you watch TV and shows or videos, you may come across something like the lives of the rich and the famous. And you see these people who are constantly spending more money on themselves because, hey, they supposedly earned it. And you hear one soccer player who buys a $2.5 million automobile. And then another soccer player who makes more money wants to show off, so he buys a $3.5 million Bugatti. And his is faster than this car. And each one's trying to outdo. And to a point, I get it. But boy, there was a stick in my stomach when they did another popular person and he didn't spend money on himself. He gave the majority of it to others. And the people watching reacted with anger. I thought, this is weird. He gives his money to the people to care for people, and the most citizens are angry at him because he's not hoarding it for himself. I don't understand that point, but Nehemiah said, I don't want to be that way. I guess you guys know we've had at least 3 TV interviews here because of the great ministry of the clothes closet going on. The last one, the guy asked me, after I got mic'd up and the lighting was set, first question he asked, so why do you guys do this? Is it because you want your church members to get free clothes? And I froze. There was a bit of anger that was rising up, and all I could get from God was, you're about to say something wrong. Watch out, you're about to say something. And I know I said something, it was very neutral, and I quickly moved to the real reason for why we're doing it. But do you see the picture here? Are we doing things for ourselves or for others? A loving team player does not indulge in personal privileges. Let's go to a third one in verse 15. Loving team players do not burden the teammates. Verse 15 says, for the former governors, now who's speaking? Nehemiah. He's referring to all the other leaders, Jewish leaders, who were over the people. The former governors who were before me laid burdens on the people and took from them bread and wine besides 40 shekels of silver. Even their servants domineered the people. But I did not do so. What's he saying? If I had come in and taxed the people, he said, I had every right to do it because I'm the leader, but I didn't do it. A loving team player does not place extra burdens on the other team players. We can do this easily. We can walk into this church building with mud on our shoes. Oh, it doesn't matter. We have someone who cleans up. We go into our house when we're a child and our friends are with us and they have muddy shoes. Oh, don't worry about it. My mom cleans the house. Doing things to make our life easier, but end up being a burden for other team players is not a loving act. Taking apart candy in public and just throwing the paper on, well, we have people who are hired to clean up. Not realizing if we're a team player, I'm making it a burden for others. Something as simple as going out to eat. How do we finish? When we're through with each individual item, do we keep them separated and shove them to the edge so that, well, that's the waitress's job to clean up the whole table? Or is there a sense of helping them out because we're a team player? Even though we're not employed, we're still a team player. We're helping other people out. The third aspect is that we do not burden the teammates. Or how about this one? Parking in a parking spot next to the entrance because we can, but at the same time other people might have more difficulty. I still think of the 80-plus-year-old woman who lived down the hill a quarter of a mile and pushed her walker in the wintertime through the ice and snow to be here. There's a sense of a loving team player does not place extra burdens on other people when we can make a difference. So let's go to a fourth one. A loving team player will help do the work. They're not just supervising and telling other people what to do. They roll up their sleeves and they go out there and help as well. Verse 16, I also applied myself to the work on this wall. Again, who's speaking? It's Nehemiah, the leader. He helped do the work. We did not buy any land, and all my servants were gathered there for the work. Now, this is during the building, but still, it's like he lived in an apartment, if you could use today's terminology. He didn't go to a five-star hotel. He didn't buy property, and since he had the money, and since the government's going to pay for it, then just go ahead and spend it because, hey, you know, the government has billions and millions of dollars to throw away. But he didn't do that. He didn't buy any land. It's as if he lived in an apartment, in a lean-to. He didn't want to take advantage of the people, and he's helping do the work. It almost sounds like Jesus, who had no place to lay his head. He came down here to be one of us and not to be arrogant and use his privileges. Let's go to the fifth area. A loving team player will know their teammates. The English is bad. I apologize. I'm bad with English. I don't know the right wording. I thought about it later that they know who their teammates are. Let's see what that means in verse 17. Moreover, there were at my table, in his apartment, in his lean-to, I mean, even there, at my table were 150 Jews and officials, besides those who came to us from the nations that were around us. Get the point. He's paying for it out of his own pocket. It's not that he's a government leader and he's saying, look at how much money I make, and he's pulling off these parties to brag about his prestige. He's paying for it out of his own pocket. And the people he invited were not only Jews. To a point, Nehemiah really was a Persian. I mean, born and raised in Persia. He was on staff. I mean, for the most part, if you know what I mean. And I mean, he's over there, and so he brings his officials. He's a team player with the other Persians. And there's a sense here when it says those who came to us from the nations that were around us. I personally believe that includes not only Jews from neighboring nations, but other people who wanted to become Jews. His heart is open not only to just those in his immediate family, not only towards those in his blood family and his nationality, not only those in his neighborhood, in his state, and in his country. I get the sense he wants to be a team player with everybody who's willing to be on the team. That we all work together, that wherever we work, wherever we go in public, oh, someone wants to go into the building, open the door for them. Because we're a team player, even for people we don't even know by name. We care for other people We're a team player, not trying to run over them. So inside the house, we become a team player. Could be helping wash the dishes. It could be helping to clean a part of the house. It could be helping working outside on a project, because we're a team. I might add, even kids can be on the team. They don't have to be left inside until they're 12 or 18 watching TV. They can all participate in family projects. When we work at a job, co-workers, we're helping each other do their work easier, because God knows that the more you help them, the more they will eventually help you, even though they may not realize it. It's a team effort. We're helping each other. Even in the church, there's an idea of it's more than just us. It's God's whole kingdom, all Christians around the entire world. We're on their team as well. And when we hear someone leading someone to the Lord 1,000 miles and we don't even know their names, there's a sense of rejoicing. Yes, we're on their team, because they are a part of our overall family. Many of you may remember, if you lived back in the 1970s, of a story of a Japanese who was found on an island in the Philippines. He thought World War II was still going on, and this was 1974. He never knew that the war ended, and what made it more challenging for him was his department or specialty in Japan, his training was propaganda. So every time planes would fly over and drop these leaflets that say, hey, the war is over, he said, that's another propaganda aspect from those Americans. I know they're trying to trick me so that I can get out. He stayed in the jungles for 30 years. It wasn't until another Japanese felt this urging in him that he should be the one to go tell him the war's over. He still wouldn't come. He said, who was your superior? Who was the officer who sent you off into this war? And the guy, the soldier who was a lieutenant and had been in the war or in the jungles for 30 years, had a name of Hiroo Onoda. And Onoda gave him the name of his superior, so that other Japanese went back to Japan, somehow found that superior. They got on an airplane and went back to the Philippines, found him, and as soon as Onoda saw him, he immediately saluted. He recognized him after 30 years. And when that guy finally said, the war is over, Lieutenant Onoda finally dropped his arm, as in he dropped his sword. He was finally ready to end the war. He was made both a hero and a bunch of other things because of what he had done, because he had served his country to the end. Here's one of his statements. One must have a sense of citizenship. For 30 years, I served my country every minute of every day, never thinking whether it was good or bad for me as an individual. His whole mindset was, it's almost like a kamikaze. I give my all to the emperor. I give my all to the Japanese. That's team spirit that says, I'm willing to sacrifice what I want in order to benefit the team. But I'd like for us to look at the one last aspect in our passage. Loving team players care for teammates. In verse 18, I mentioned the huge dinner table with 150 plus people. Now look at what he's serving them, the food. Now that which was prepared for each day was 1 ox and 6 choice sheep, also birds and prepared for me. And once in 10 days all sorts of wine were furnished in abundance. Yet for all this I did not demand the governor's food allowance, because the servitude was heavy on this people. He paid for it out of his own pocket. He's a team player. I'll say hospitality is definitely at the bottom of my list of positive qualities, something I'm still struggling to learn. But here he said, I care about the people, I'll just pay for their meals. Be like one of us saying at the end of the service, well, we heard the message, so I'll buy everyone else their lunch today. No, I'm not saying that, but that would be the equivalent of, that's definitely a team spirit. I may have mentioned to you in the past that when I was in high school, I was voted on to be the team captain for the sport that I was on. And I took that as another trophy to add to the shelf. And decades later, as I think back on it, I am so embarrassed. I didn't do anything for the team. I didn't encourage them. I didn't help them. Especially I'm a senior, freshmen, sophomores still trying to figure out how to tie their shoes. And they have all kinds of questions that they want. I didn't help anybody. I thought being a team captain was just a trophy. I did not know it meant I was responsible for helping everybody else. Like I said, this mindset of helping others has just been foreign to me. But a team player looks at others intentionally. How can I help this person? How can I help this person? How can I help that person? And looking for, instead of the opposite that says, well, I was at church for 12 hours and nobody said anything to me, so obviously they are not very loving. A person who loves others doesn't care if anybody meets their needs. The loving person reaches out. Let me mention a very positive thing. It's a little thing, but it's a huge thing. Again, I have blown it or messed up. For years, I have seen pianists struggle over there. You know what I'm talking about. They're trying to play with two hands, and with their elbow, they're trying to hold a page still in the book, and the wind is blowing, and they can't. And I've known about a solution for years, and I never put two and two together. And then someone shows up just about 3 or 4 years ago with the solution. I see the person walking in with this big, fat book, 3-ring binder so that the pages are designed for a pianist, and places it over there. And I'm so excited about someone sees a need and responds. Of course, I'm being humbled myself. But that's the idea of how can we help other people do their job? And when a whole team does that, it is a team effort working together. It is wonderful. It is great. I would like for each one of you now to, if you would, to just reflect on what's been said and see wherever you are in your level of maturity. There's a lot further we can all go. What does God want you to do to improve in your area of just seeing the needs out there and being creative and knowing how to help other people in meeting their needs? In many churches, it's common if a pastor has flaws, and I'm speaking especially of young pastors, it's easy for the older church members to say, he has flaws, let's get rid of him and find someone else who's better. But a team spirit says, he may know more Greek and Hebrew and Bible history and all that. It seems to be a little bit lacking in life. But we senior adults know more about some life aspects that he doesn't know. It would be neat for the senior adults to go to the young person and say, let us help you with your weaknesses while you help us with our weaknesses. It's a team spirit that says, you're on my team, whether I like it or not. It's like talking to a brother or sister. You're my brother or sister, where I can't change it. Let's be a team player. Let's help each other be the best they can be. And the more they improve, the more they benefit us. Would you bow your heads for prayer? As always, God is speaking to all of us in totally different ways. How is He speaking to you right now. For me personally, I am blown away at the simplicity of this message and how I missed it for years. And it is so powerful, so wonderful. May we all have an amazing team spirit that moves up another notch or two after today. May we all be more like Jesus Christ. May we take the initiative to leave heaven and go to earth, to where the people are, and become just like they are and meet their needs. God, you are truly more than we could possibly describe. You are amazing. You think of things that I haven't even thought about. You know it all. You are every good thing that is possible. You are love. You are compassionate. You are forgiving. You are gracious. And I ask that somehow, some way, you would have that move through my life and the life of all Christians and all churches, that we can be the church you want us to be. I thank you for the work you will do. And all this I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.